So we started to see a couple of months ago the numbers increase, and it was a little strange, right? How could the numbers be increasing if we're seeing so many more people quit on a regular basis? In March, there were 4.5 million people that quit, which is about a million more than were quitting in March of 2019. And what we started to really see from our own index is that companies, certainly the more sophisticated companies, were overhiring. They were sort of planning for the attrition and stocking up on employees like you and I would stock up on Purell pre-pandemic. And so that's somewhat what we're actually seeing now. We're also seeing the pool grow. We started tracking what sort of jobs needed college degrees. And again, keep in mind, this is our recruiter index. So you're looking at the jobs that recruiters are looking at, which are typically the more higher priced jobs, the more knowledge worker jobs. And we actually hit a record number in April where 36% of the jobs that the recruiters were working on did not require a college degree. So not surprised, the pools are actually increasing also. So we're seeing the Great Resignation continue. We're seeing in some areas it's slowing up a little bit, but it's still being replaced by what we call the job hopper economy.
We were talking about the amount of people that are looking for jobs right now that do or do not have a college degree. And so with that in mind and the shape shifting that we've seen in terms of the requirements that companies are looking for, which sectors would that benefit most readily and immediately right now?
I would say all sectors. We started thinking that the society is really going to move to a skills-based society. And I'm making a generalization. We're going to start seeing more skills-oriented. So if you're a developer, do I really care as much today whether you have a college degree or whether you're just a great Java developer? So clearly the tech sector, and there are other sectors, the transportation, logistics, et cetera, that are really more skills oriented as opposed to, thou shalt have a college degree in order for us to look at you.
Evan, one of my contacts just shot me a note pointing out that the labor participation rate in April fell to 62.2% from 62.4%, and they're calling it an alarming decline. Why do you think there is that decline, and what does it mean for wages?
So some of the numbers, that's a great statistic. I'm going to add that to my own narrative.
Here to help.
I think some of that, tell your friend to send me a note. One of the challenges that we're seeing is that we're actually not tracking the gig economy as part of these labor numbers. More employer identification numbers were handed out in 21 than ever before. That means more people are starting new businesses. Now, I don't know if they were actually starting the corner coffee shop or the hardware store as much as driving for DoorDash and Uber and all the other gig economy areas. And so the question is, were people leaving the workforce because they didn't need the money anymore? They were retiring, or they left the W-2 workforce in favor of a freelance workforce?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think we'll need more data to figure that out. Speaking of data, Evan, maybe you can help us shed some light on this, given the business that you're in. All throughout the last year or so, I've seen anecdotal evidence or anecdotal tales that we are not getting an accurate picture of how many jobs are out there, not because necessarily companies are overhiring, but because they're over-posting. In other words, I'm a company and I need someone, but it can be a remote worker. So I'm posting it in 20 different cities, the same position. But those positions were all getting counted as different positions. How much of how much is that inflating or distorting the jobs picture right now?
Yeah, so look, I agree. I think a lot of these job data numbers were created, back at the Depression, where let's look at what today's numbers said. How many new jobs were added and how many people are looking for jobs? That's the equivalent of saying how many homes were built and how many homeless people are there. Those numbers don't really give you the health of the housing market. You would say mortgage applications, first-time home buyers, et cetera. So this morning's numbers are really how many new jobs were added and how many people are still looking for a job. Those are kind of a strange way of looking at those actual numbers themselves. And I agree with you. The open job numbers, I think it's like 11.5 million now open jobs. And does that mean that there's 1.9 open jobs for every person? Sure, but you're overposting. We would say if a restaurant's looking for more customers, putting another door on the restaurant, that sounds really good. You're not going to get more customers coming in just because you put another door in the restaurant.
All right. Work-life balance, higher pay, among some of the things that came through in your survey and the data that you were also sharing with us as well. We got to leave things there on the day, but we got to have you back to continue this conversation, especially on the employment situation. Recruiter.com CEO Evan Sohn, thanks so much for joining us.